Hey everyone, I'm Amod Mahajan and welcome to my YouTube channel. We will learn about a locator method provided by Playwright called getByLabel in this video tutorial. This locator looks simple but tricky. You must need to understand working logic behind this locator to use it effectively. So let's start with basics and refer official documentation of Playwright to know what they write about getByLabel locator. So here is the official documentation of Playwright and it says about locate by label locator that most form controls usually have dedicated labels that could be conveniently used to interact with the form. So let's break this statement. So form here represent a web page where we enter details like first name, last name, address, etc. And by controls, it represent the web elements like text boxes, radio buttons, drop down, etc. And further it says they have dedicated labels that could be used to interact with the form. If you see this example here, we have a text box and beside this text box we have a text password. So this is actually label and by looking at this label anyone can understand that this text box is a password text box. Basically what kind of information we need to put in. That is the use case of label. And if you want to use Playwright to perform action on any web element in a form, then we can use this label if available using getByLabel method. If you see HTML code of this web element, you can see we have a label tag where it mentioned the label text and we have one input tag with type password. So type password means it is a text box, but when you type in, those typed character will not be visible to anyone. It will be coming as dots or asterisk. If you understand this HTML code more, you can see this input is within label. You can see opening label tag and closing label tag. And within this, we have input tag. And if you want to use getByLabel locator, we can call page.getByLabel and just pass the label text and perform the action. Like here it is typing in. So it looks very simple and easy to use. But we have a hidden point here which I will cover in some time. So let's start with Happy Flow. I have created one HTML file where I have two text boxes and one button. If you inspect this first name text box, you can see I'm also using label tag and I'm giving the label text which is first name and then I have one input text box and then closing label tag. Whatever example was shown in the Playwright doc. The same way I have created one HTML. And if you see last name, then it also follows the same structure as first name. Now let's call getByLabel locator and perform action. So I have already basic test created where I am loading the page. Now I'm going to use getByLabel locator. So use await page dot getByLabel. Let's pass the label. So before that, let me copy it first. So my label is first name. Okay, and then let's call the action. So this is a text box, so I need to perform typing. So I will call fill method. Let me pass a mode. Same thing I can do for last name and pass the last name. You must have noticed that in this label text we have some white spaces as well. But I'm not passing those things because getByLabel locator will truncate any leading and trailing white spaces and also if we have extra white space in between words that will be also taken care. So this is a very basic example. So I'm going to run this. Here is my test. Click on run test. So you can see it has entered the text correctly. So this is very simple. Now let's see the problem with this locator. This is another HTML page where we have the same web elements, but I have changed the way it has created. If you inspect first name text box. Then here you can see I have label tag, then label text, and then I am closing the label. Then in the next line, I have the input box to accept the first name. Similar logic I have applied for the last name as well. So what is the difference? In the first HTML form, we had input text box within my label tag. But here I have separated them. Let's see if getByLabel works here or not. So I'm going to copy this HTML file path and here I will replace. Everything is same. Let's try to run it. Click on run test. So you can see page has been loaded but nothing is entered. Let's go to console and on the console you can see it is timeout error 500 millisecond exceeded. So it is trying to get the element using getByLabel first name. If you're thinking that I have a less time and might be test or timed out. So for that I will go to config and in this config I will increase the action timeout to 15 seconds. Let me rerun my test. So it's running and you can see web page has been loaded, but again it is not entering anything. This time I have increased the timeout as well. So let's wait for 15 seconds. So again you can see it has failed, and if you scroll up you can see it is waiting for this element and timed out after 15 seconds. So what is happening here? We can see the label but it's not working. So here is the trick, or I can say how this getByLabel works. So when we use getByLabel locator and whatever label text we provide, then this locator will look for the element within the label tag to perform the action. Like in the first HTML page, when you pass this label text, it will try to find any input element within the label tag. If it is finding, then it will perform the action, which was not the case with the second HTML form. So you got the difference. But there is one more point. So when we use label tag, we also have one attribute which can be used to link the input element. That means within this label, I can use one attribute for, and we can pass a value like first name. That value should be ID of related input element. Confused? Let me show you the demo. So here is the third HTML form and we have the same element, but this time we have created in different way. If you inspect first name, then you can see I am following the first approach where input text box is within label. In this case, getByLabel locator will work, and also it might work in this case. I am using label tag with the attribute for, and I am passing the value last name. Then we have the input text box, and here I am using ID equal to last name, and this value are same. So basically it is saying that this label belongs to this input element, and the same concept will be used by getByLabel locator of Playwright. Either it will check if we have any input element within my label tag. If not, then it will check the for attribute value and will try to locate the input element with the ID value, not any other attribute value. It should be ID only. So let's try to call getByLabel locator on this web elements. So go to Visual Studio Code, and here instead of case 1, the HTML file is case 2, and go to test and re-trigger the test. So you can see it has entered first name and last name properly. And if you inspect this page, you can see I have both the approaches here. That means I have loaded the correct HTML page. I hope you find this interesting, and if yes, then please like, comment and subscribe to my channel. Thank you everyone.